You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. In the shadowed corridors of the American justice system, a story unfolded today that is as chilling as it is unbelievable. A story of a man whose voice once captivated millions, now silenced behind the bars of a federal prison. R. Kelly, the R&B legend whose music defined a generation, now finds himself not only fighting for his freedom that was maliciously taken away from him, but also for his very life, which is now evidently endangered. Recent events have cast a rather dark and disturbing light on R. Kelly's unfair incarceration, raising questions that demand immediate answers. Was R. Kelly the target of a deliberate attempt on his life? And if so, who stands to gain from his silence? Less than a week ago, the world was rocked by allegations that shook the foundations of the justice system. Reports surfaced as shocking as they were credible, that 2 government prosecutors involved in R. Kelly's earlier legal battles had allegedly orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot to end his life. Their target? The man whose music once soared to the top of the charts, now illegally confined to a cell, stripped of his voice and his freedom unfairly taken away. According to sources within the federal prison, this was no idle threat. It was a calculated scheme, one that sought to ensure R. Kelly would never again see the light of day. But the plot, as sinister as it was, did not end there. In a development that has sent shockwaves through the public, news broke that R. Kelly has been hospitalized following a near-fatal overdose. An overdose that, according to those close to the situation, was no accident. The details so harrowing, it is said that a solitary confinement staff member entrusted with the care of inmates allegedly instructed the R&B King to take additional medication than he needed to. This was not a routine dose and not a mistake born of negligence. The amount of drugs forced upon him was so excessive and so dangerously high that it could have ended his life. The intent was clear. This was an attempt to silence R. Kelly forever. Imagine the scene. A man already battered by years of legal battles and selective public scrutiny wakes up in his cell feeling dizzy and disoriented. He tries to stand or to call for help, but his body betrays him. He collapses onto the cold floor of his solitary confinement cell, rushing up to meet him as consciousness slips away. This was no ordinary medical emergency. This was a deliberate act, and one that left R. Kelly fighting for his life as he was rushed to Duke University Hospital. During that seemingly long and uncertain ride, a prison officer's words echoed ominously, "This is going to open a whole new can of worms." Those words, overheard in a moment of vulnerability, hint at a deeper conspiracy, a web of motives and machinations that stretches far beyond the walls of the prison. At Duke University Hospital, medical professionals confirmed the severity of the overdose. The drugs in R. Kelly's system were not just excessive, but they were potentially lethal. The analysis has painted a grim picture that suggests if he had not been rushed to medical care, had the overdose gone unchecked for just a little longer, R. Kelly might not be here to tell his story. But the question remains, how did this happen? How does a man in the custody of the federal prison system and under the watchful eyes of guards and officials come so close to death by overdose? And why was he taken off his blood thinner medications? Medications to regulating his blood clots, a condition that could prove fatal if mismanaged. Sources within the prison suggest that the decision to remove R. Kelly from his blood thinners was not a medical oversight but a deliberate act, one designed to weaken him and to make him more vulnerable to harm. Coupled with his placement in solitary confinement, an isolating environment known to break even the strongest spirits, it becomes clear that R. Kelly's life is in danger. Solitary confinement, often used as a tool of control, has been criticized for its devastating psychological and physical effects. For R. Kelly, it appears to have been a stage set for something far more sinister. The overdose incident is not an isolated event. It follows the chilling revelation of the murder-for-hire plot, a scheme allegedly orchestrated by those entrusted with upholding justice. The involvement of 2 government prosecutors who wielded the power of the state in R. Kelly's earlier trials raises profound questions about the integrity of the system that holds him. If these allegations are true, they point to a betrayal of trust at the highest levels, a conspiracy that seeks to eliminate a man whose very existence seems to threaten powerful forces. And who might those forces be? Whispers of music business mafias have long circulated in the industry, shadowy figures who operate behind the scenes pulling strings and settling scores. R. Kelly may have crossed paths with these forces. His talent, his influence and perhaps his knowledge of the industry's darker corners could make him a target. The idea that his incarceration, and now the attempts on his life are tied to these shadowy networks is not easily dismissed. For a man whose conviction is itself shrouded in questions, the stakes could not be higher. R. Kelly's legal battles alone have been a lightning rod for debate. His 2021 conviction on charges of racketeering and sex trafficking was hailed by some as justice served, but others have called it questionable, pointing to inconsistencies in evidence, procedural irregularities and the broader context of his public vilification. The court of public opinion has been merciless, but the court of law is also not infallible. If R. Kelly's conviction is indeed flawed as many argue, then his continued incarceration is not only unjust but a tragedy. And now, with his life hanging in the balance, the urgency of his situation cannot be overstated. This is why one must ask, why does the court refuse to release R. Kelly even in the face of these life-threatening incidents? The murder for hire plot, the overdose, the removal of critical medications, the isolation to solitary confinement. All of these point to a man who is not merely a prisoner but a target. The evidence suggests that his life is at risk, that powerful forces, whether within the prison system, the music industry or elsewhere, are determined to see him silenced. Yet the wheels of justice continue to turn slowly, if at all. Petitions for his release filed by his legal team in the wake of these revelations have been met with adamant resistance. Prosecutors have in fact dismissed his claims as deeply unserious, but the facts speak for themselves. A man overdosed in custody. A man collapsed in his cell. A man heard the chilling words of a prison officer hinting at a larger conspiracy. These are not the hallmarks of a system seeking justice. These are the hallmarks of a system seeking something else entirely. For R. Kelly, the fight is no longer just about freedom. It is about survival. Each day in prison brings new dangers and new threats to a life already burdened by years of unnecessary scrutiny and struggle. The overdose was a warning that came too close to being final. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.